When the richest man in a Texas border town uncovers $30 million missing from local business accounts, he thinks he's stumbled onto simple corporate fraud. What he discovers instead is a massive cartel money laundering operation that reaches into the highest levels of border law enforcement. But when he tries to expose the truth, the cartel decides to send a brutal message by throwing him off the international bridge into the Rio Grande. What the cartel doesn't know is that a retired Delta Force operator is watching from the shadows. One man's decision to act will set off a chain of events that will expose decades of corruption, trigger an international manhunt, and bring one of North America's most powerful criminal empires to its knees. This isn't just another crime story. This is about courage, justice, and how sometimes the most dangerous person isn't the one making threats, it's the quiet observer who's been trained to act when others look away. Let's take a quick break. Tell us, where are you tuning in from? If this kind of content speaks to you, don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is something truly special. The setting sun cast long shadows across Harrison Blackwood's office as he stared at the financial records spread across his desk. After 40 years of building his import-export business, he knew when numbers didn't add up. The discrepancy wasn't just in one account. It was systematic, carefully hidden beneath layers of legitimate transactions. Grace Sullivan, his housekeeper of 15 years, knocked softly before entering with a cup of coffee. "Mr. Blackwood, it's getting late. Perhaps you should rest." Harrison barely looked up, his weathered fingers tracing a line of suspicious transfers. "Grace, look at this. Every month, like clockwork, someone's using my companies to move money across the border." Grace sat down the coffee, her expression troubled. "Should I call Sophia?" "No," Harrison said firmly, thinking of his daughter. "Not until I'm certain she has enough to worry about." With the charity foundation across town in a nondescript pickup truck parked near the border crossing, Jack Reeves adjusted his surveillance equipment. 25 years in Delta Force had taught him patience, and 6 months of private security work along the border had taught him that patience usually paid off. His radio crackled. "Movement at checkpoint 3, black SUV, matching target description." Jack reached for his binoc. Through the lens, he watched as a vehicle with diplomatic plates cleared customs without inspection. Another piece of the puzzle. His phone buzzed, a text from his son Marcus. "Dad, got those financial records you requested? You need to see this." Before he could respond, movement near the bridge caught his attention. A familiar figure was walking quickly toward his car. Harrison Blackwood. Jack had seen him at several charity events, always generous, always advocating for border community development. Something was off about Blackwood's pace, his body language. He kept looking over his shoulder. In his office 20 minutes earlier, Harrison had finally found what he was looking for: the names, the dates, the connections. It was all there. His hands shook as he copied the files to a secure drive. A sound in the hallway made him freeze, footsteps too heavy to be Grace's. "Mr. Blackwood." The voice was smooth, cultured. Victor Delgado stepped into the office, flanked by 2 men Harrison had never seen before. Working late, Harrison's hand moved slowly toward his desk drawer. "Victor, this is unexpected. Is it?" Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I think we both know why I'm here. The files, please." "I don't know what you're talking about," Victor sighed, gesturing to his men. "Search the office." As they moved forward, Harrison grabbed his backup drive and ran. He could hear shouts behind him, feet pounding on marble floors. His car was just outside. Jack watched through his binoculars as Harrison's sedan sped onto the bridge behind it. The black SUV he'd been tracking all week accelerated in pursuit. "Control, we have a situation developing on the international bridge." The sedan screeched to a halt halfway across, boxed in by 2 more vehicles. Jack was already moving, his training kicking in. As he grabbed his gear, Harrison found himself dragged from his car, the drive containing evidence torn from his grip. Victor emerged from the SUV, his expensive suit immaculate in the fading light. "You should have left it alone, Harrison. Your daughter's foundation does such good work. It would be a shame if anything happened to it. You're using my businesses to launder cartel money." Harrison spat. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" Victor's smile faded. "No, I suppose you'd figure it out eventually. That's why we have contingency plans." The men forced Harrison toward the railing below. The Rio Grande flowed dark and swift. "Your death will be ruled as suicide," Victor said softly, a respected businessman overwhelmed by financial troubles. Very tragic from his position. In the shadows of the bridge support Jack Reeves. Calculated distances, angles, risks. The situation was deteriorating fast. Please, Harrison's voice carried on the wind. Think about what you're doing. I always think about what I'm doing, Victor replied. That's why I'm still alive. He nodded to his men. They lifted Harrison onto the railing. Jack moved 25 years of combat experience, guided every step. As he emerged from cover, his presence, still undetected, the splash echoed across the water. Victor and his men turned away, not bothering to watch Harrison disappear into the dark current below. They never saw Jack dive in after him. The river was cold, the current strong. Jack fought against it, his eyes scanning for movement there, a flash of pale hair in the murky water. Harrison was unconscious when Jack reached him, pulled him to the surface. The shore was 30 yards away. Every stroke a battle against exhaustion and time. Behind them, engines roared as Victor's convoy departed, believing their work was done. They didn't notice the two figures emerging from the river, one carrying the other. Jack laid Harrison on the bank, checking vital signs. Alive barely. He pulled out a waterproof phone. Control, I need an extract, medical emergency, and get me Agent Morrison on a secure line. Tell her Operation Riverwatch just went hot. As sirens wailed in the distance, Jack looked down at the unconscious man he'd just saved. Harrison Blackwood had stumbled onto something big enough to kill, for the game was about to change, and Victor Delgado was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous players are the ones you never see coming. The emergency room at Luke's hospital buzzed with controlled chaos as Jeremiah Santos worked on Harrison Blackwood. Jack Reeves stood in the corner, his clothes still damp, watching as the medical team fought to stabilize the elderly businessman. BP's dropping. A nurse called out, "Pulse is irregular." Dar Santos barked orders, her movements precise and focused. "Get me another unit of blood, and someone find out where those chest x-rays are." Jack's phone vibrated. Agent Claire Morrison's text was brief: "Secure the perimeter, they'll try again." He was already moving, noting the positions of hospital security, identifying vulnerabilities. A figure in scrubs caught his attention, walking too purposefully, hand tucked suspiciously under their coat. Jack intercepted them in a quiet corridor. The fake nurse reached for a weapon, but Jack was faster. In seconds, the would-be assassin was unconscious, zip-tied, and hidden in a supply closet back in the trauma bay. Harrison's eyes fluttered open. "Sophia," he whispered, "have to warn your daughter's safe." Jack assured him, "But you need to stay quiet. They think you're dead. Let's keep it that way." Dr. Santos looked up sharply. "What exactly is going on here?" "The less you know, the safer you are." Jack showed her his credentials. "Just keep him alive." Across town, Victor Delgado sat in his pristine office, watching the evening news. The reporter's words made his blood run cold. "Local businessman Harrison Blackwood missing, care found abandoned near International Bridge." Rafe Montenegro burst in his face, ashing. "We have a problem. The body, it's not in the river." Victor's hand tightened on his desk. "What do you mean it's not there?" "Search teams found nothing, and there's more. Security cameras picked up someone else on the bridge, a man in tactical gear." Victor stood slowly, his calm exterior masking rising fury. "Find out who he is and find Blackwood. He can't have survived on his own." At the Blackwood Foundation offices, Sophia Blackwood was reviewing charity proposals when Detective Dominic Nash arrived. "Miss Blackwood, I'm afraid I have some concerning news about your father." Sophia felt her world tilt. "What about my father?" "His car was found abandoned. Given his recent financial troubles, we're treating it as a possible suicide." "Suicide?" Sophia stood, anger replacing shock. "That's ridiculous. My father would never." Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. The text read, "Your father is alive. Tell no one. Delete this message." Nash watched her carefully. "Miss Blackwood, is everything all right?" She composed herself. "Yes, fine, just processing." After Nash left, Jack called Claire Morrison. "Nash is compromised. Tried to sell the suicide angle too hard." Agreed. Claw's voice was grim. "We've had suspicions about him for months. How's our package?" "Stable, but we need to move him. Hospital's not secure. Safe house is ready. Sending coordinates now." The safe house was a modest ranch 20 miles outside town. Jack pulled up as sunset painted the sky crimson. Dos Santos was waiting, having taken a circuitous route to avoid being followed. "He's weak but stable," she reported as they helped Harrison inside. "The next 24 hours are critical." Jack secured the perimeter while Dos Santos set up medical equipment. Harrison drifted in And out of consciousness, muttering about files and accounts around midnight, Sophia arrived escorted by CLA Morrison. Her reunion with Harrison was brief but emotional. "Daddy, what have you gotten involved in?" Harrison ripped her hand. "Had to stop them, princess, using our family's name to move drug money. Save your strength." Claire interrupted Miss Blackwood. "We need to talk about witness protection." "No," Sophia said firmly. "I won't abandon the foundation. It's what they'll expect." Jack admired her courage, but knew it complicated things. "Then we do this carefully. Your routine stays exactly the same, but you'll wear this." He handed her a concealed pen. "Panic button." "What about Grace?" Sophia asked. "She's been with us for years already." Secured. Jack assured her she's safe. Later, as Harrison slept and Sophia dozed in a chair beside him, Jack and CLA compared notes on the porch. "Victor's operation is bigger than we thought," CLA said. "Your surveillance helped us map part of it, but we're missing pieces. Nash isn't the only corrupt cop." Jack added the Border Patrol agent who waved through that diplomatic vehicle, Wesley Parker. "He's on their payroll. The question is how high this goes." Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Judge Pearson signed off on some suspicious warrant denials last month. Jack's expression hardened. "They'll come looking for Harrison once they realize he survived, and they'll use Sophia to draw him out." "Then we use that." Claire's eyes glinted with determination. "Let them think they're in control. Meanwhile, we follow the money." Harrison copied files before they grabbed him. "If we can recover that drive." A noise from inside interrupted them. Harrison was awake, more lucid than before. "The evidence," he said when they entered. "It's not just in the files. Look at the charity events. Every major donor, every contract. Victor used them all. But he made a mistake." "What mistake?" Jack leaned forward. "He got greedy, started skimming from the cartel too. They don't know, but they will." Claire and Jack exchanged looks. "This complicated everything. If the cartel discovered Victor's betrayal, the body count would skyrocket." Dawn was breaking when Jack finally allowed himself a moment's rest. His phone buzzed. Marcus with an update from the cyber unit. "Dad, you need to see those financial records. They lead straight to an account in Judge Pearson's name." The pieces were falling into place, but Jack knew they were running out of time. Victor would make his move soon. In his office, Victor stared at the hospital surveillance photos his men had recovered. The man who had taken out his assassin was a ghost. "No matches in any database." "Find out who he is," Victor ordered Raf, "and get me everything on Harrison's daughter. If he survived, she's the key to drawing him out." The sun rose over the border town, promising another scorching day. But the real heat was just beginning. The Blackwood Foundation's annual charity gala was in full swing. The hotel ballroom, gleaming with wealth and influence. Sophia maintained her composure, playing her role perfectly despite knowing assassins might be in the crowd. Jack watched from his position by the bar, disguised as a wealthy donor. "Table 6, blue dress." His wife Lexi's voice came through his earpiece. "She's carrying a ceramic knife." Former military intelligence had taught her to spot the subtle tells of hidden weapons. "Confirmed," Jack murmured. "CLA, you getting this from her surveillance van outside?" CLA Morrison watched through multiple camera feeds. "Got her running facial recognition now." The woman in the blue dress approached Sophia, hand extending for a greeting. Jack tensed, ready to move. "Miss Blackwood, I'm Diana Chen from the Pacific Trade Commission. Your father spoke highly of our potential partnership." Sophia's practiced smile never wavered. "I'm sorry, but with recent events, we're postponing new commitments." The woman's expression hardened slightly before she could respond. Jack smoothly intercepted. "Pardon me, Miss Blackwood, that urgent call you were expecting in the van." Claire's computer peaked. "Jack, she's not Diana Chen. She's CART enforcement, suspected in 3 murders." The woman realized she was made. Her hand moved toward her dress, but Jack was faster. He guided both women into a service corridor, where his team quickly subdued the assassin. "You okay?" he asked Sophia. She nodded, though her hand shook slightly. "They're not even trying to hide anymore. Are they back at the safe house?" Harrison watched the gala security feeds from his bed. "They're getting desperate," he observed as Grace changed his bandages. "Victor knows I kept copies of everything." "The backup drive," Grace said quietly. It's still in the office, isn't it? Hidden in the old painting. Harrison stared at her. How did you 15 years of cleaning an office, Mr. Blackwood? I noticed things. She smiled sadly, like the judge who visited late at night last month, or the Border Patrol chief's unusual interest in your shipping schedules. Why didn't you say anything? Same reason you didn't. Waiting for proof. She finished with the bandages. Victor's men searched the office, but they missed it. The painting looks worthless at the FBI field office. Claire reviewed interrogation footage of the fake Diana Chen. She's not talking, but her phone's interesting calls to Judge Pearson's private line. Her supervisor, Deputy Director Roberts, frowned. A federal judge. That's a serious accusation with evidence to back it up. Harrison's files show regular payments through offshore accounts. I'll need to inform the director. Something in his tone made Claire pause. Later, reviewing security footage, she noticed Roberts making a call immediately after leaving her office. The number matched one from the assassin's phone. Jack was conducting his own investigation in a dingy bar near the border. He met an old contact, a retired Border Patrol agent. Parker's been on the take for years. The contact slurred. But it goes higher. The regional director, Thompson. He coordinates shipment times, personally. Evidence in Parker's safe personal residence. The contact drained his glass. But watch your backward. Is Victor's figured out who you are? Your Delta Force record. Jack's phone buzzed. Lexi. Jack, we have movement at the Blackwood office. 3 SUVs just pulled up. They found out about the drive. Jack realized. Claire, you copy? Already mobilizing. But Jack Roberts is compromised. We need to assume local FBI is too. Victor Delgado stood in Harrison's office, watching his men search methodically. The worthless painting hung crooked on the wall. Ignored. Sir R approached with a tablet. Found something on our ghost. Jack Reeves, former Delta Force, multiple combat citations, wife's ex-military intelligence. Victor studied the file. Interesting. He's not just a random good Samaritan. This was planned. There's more. His son works cyber crimes for the FBI, and Agent Morrison's team has been investigating us for months. So Harrison had helped. Victor mused. Federal help. Judge Pearson won't like that. What are your orders? Find the wife. Former intelligence officers know too much, and get me everything on Morrison's investigation at the safe house. Sophia confronted. Jack, you knew, didn't you, about my father's investigation? That's why you were watching that night. We suspected Victor was using legitimate businesses to launder cartel money. Your father's companies fit the pattern. The foundation too. Jack nodded grimly. Every major donor is connected. They use charity events to justify large cash transfers. All those people we helped. Sophia's voice cracked. It was all just a front. No, Jack said firmly. The good you did was real. They just used it as cover. His phone rang. Marcus, Dad, I found something in the financial records. The night Harrison confronted Victor, Judge Pearson authorized a sealed warrant, but not for Harrison, for you. Jack's blood ran in cold. They knew we were investigating. It gets worse. Thompson signed off on a special security directive. Every Border Patrol station has your photo. Standing orders to detain on site. Claire's voice cut in on the secure line. Jack Roberts just called an emergency meeting. They're making their move. Get out of there. Jack ordered. Meet at backup location. Alpha. Lexi already moving, but Jack. Grace just called. Someone's watching the office. They know about the painting. Dawn approached as Jack outlined the situation to Harrison. The older man listened intently, his face grave. So we've got corrupt federal judges, Border Patrol leadership, and FBI management. Harrison summarized, all protecting Victor's operation. And now they're moving against us openly. Harrison smiled thinly. Then maybe it's time we moved against them. Outside, the first rays of sun illuminated gathering storm clouds. A perfect metaphor, Jack thought, for what was coming. In his office, Victor reviewed surveillance photos from the gala. Something caught his eye. Jack talking to Sophia. He zoomed in on Jack's hand, specifically his ring. Delta Force. Victor muttered, but which unit? The answer made him sit back, genuinely worried. For the first time, Jack's unit had specialized in dismantling criminal empires from the inside out, and now he had everything he needed to do exactly that. Grace Suvin moved through Harrison's office with practiced efficiency, dusting surfaces as she had done countless times before. To anyone watching through the office windows, she was simply performing her usual cleaning routine. They didn't notice her careful attention to the old painting of a desert landscape. Security camera loop is active. Lexi's voice came through her concealed earpiece. "You have 4 minutes." Grace continued cleaning, gradually working her way toward the painting. In her cleaning cart, hidden beneath supplies, sat an identical replacement. The switch would have to be perfect. Outside, Jack watched from a parked maintenance van as Victor's men conducted their routine surveillance. 2 men in a black SUV, another pair walking the perimeter every 15 minutes. "TLA, what's your status?" he whispered. "Almost there." Had to shake. "Three Tails Roberts has the whole office looking for me." Grace reached the painting. Her movements, unhurried. Years of working under observation had taught her the value of appearing unremarkable. The frame came away from the wall smoothly, revealing the wall safe behind it. 2 minutes, Lexi warned. In his temporary command center, Victor received an alert. One of his sources had spotted Claire Morrison heading west on the highway. "She's running," Rafe observed. "No," Victor mused, studying traffic camera feeds. "She's circling. The question is, what are we being distracted from?" He froze. Something clicking. "The office. Check the office now." Grace had just finished replacing the painting when Lexi's urgent warning came through. "Company coming. Multiple vehicles approaching fast." Jack was already moving. "Grace, get out now. Use the service exit." Grace grabbed her cart, heading for the back stairs. Behind her, she heard the elevator chime. Footsteps, multiple sets, echoed in the corridor. Found her. Raf's voice carried through the empty office. "Old woman cleaning cart. Take her." Victor ordered. The first gunshot shattered the office window. Jack's warning shot forced Victor's men to dive for cover, giving Grace precious seconds to reach the stairs. Targets moving to the south stairwell. One of Victor's men reported. Boxer and Victor commanded teams 2 and 3 cut off the exits. But Grace Sullivan hadn't survived 15 years in the crossfire of cartel business. Being predictable. Instead of going down, she went up. "What's she doing?" Rafe demanded, watching through security feeds on the roof. "CLA Morrison waited by the open door of a helicopter engine idling." Grace emerged from the stairwell, clutching her cart. "Right on schedule." CLA smiled, helping her aboard. Victor's men burst onto the roof. Just as the helicopter lifted off, their shots bounced harmlessly off the armored underbelly. "Sir, we lost them," Rafe reported grimly. Victor's response was cold. "Find out who that woman really is." "Nobody is that lucky." At the FBI office, Deputy Director Roberts received Victor's call. "How did they get a helicopter into restricted airspace?" "Flight plan was logged for hospital transfers," Roberts admitted. "By the time we realized, I don't want excuses. Find them." Judge Pearson was already working damage control, signing emergency orders to freeze the Blackwood Foundation's assets. Suspected terrorist financing, she cited as justification. Wesley Parker, monitoring border checkpoints, spotted a pattern in the radio traffic. "They're not running," he realized. "They're spreading us thin on purpose." In the helicopter, Grace opened her cleaning cart, revealing Harrison's backup drive and stacks of physical documents. "Everything's here," she confirmed. "Account numbers, transfer records, photos of meetings." Victor was sloppy. He kept proof of everything. Claire nodded grimly. "This is enough to bring down their whole operation, if we can keep it safe long enough to verify and copy." "About that," Grace said carefully, "there's something else you need to see." She pulled out a small notebook. "I've been keeping my own records, including conversations between Judge Pearson and someone she called the director." Claire's blood ran cold. FBI director hire at the safe house. Harrison reviewed the footage Jack had captured of the office operation. "Victor's getting nervous," he observed. "See how quickly he responded. He knows we're close to something big." "But what?" Sophia asked, studying financial records on her laptop. "I've been through every Foundation document. The money laundering is clear, but there's something else. Look at these transfers." She pointed to a series of numbers. "These amounts don't match any cartel patterns. They're too precise, too regulated. This looks like government black ops funding." Lexi finished, looking over her shoulder. "I saw similar patterns in military intelligence." Jack's phone buzzed. "Marcus, with an urgent update." "Dad, I found something in Judge Pearson's sealed records. Remember that warrant for you? It wasn't just about the investigation. They think you know about something called Operation Clean Slate." "Never heard of it." "That's just it. Nobody has. But every person connected to it has either disappeared or been promoted to positions of significant power." In his office, Victor reviewed Grace's personnel file. Her background checked out perfectly. "Too perfectly, sir." Rafe entered with a tablet. "You need to see this facial recognition. Just got a hit on our cleaning lady from classified military files." Victor studied the old photo. Grace Sullivan had a different name then, and a very different occupation. Well, he smiled coldly. Isn't this interesting? Get me everything on former CIA operative Sarah Mitchell. At a secure location, Claire and Grace transferred the files to an encrypted server. Once these go public, Grace began. They won't let that happen, Claire warned. Not after what's in your notebook. The question is, who do we trust to receive them? Her phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. The director sends regards. Last chance to walk away. Grace checked her weapon, the movement smooth and practiced. They know who I am. Good, Claire said firmly. Let them come. Sometimes you need to force a snake out of hiding. Jack's voice crackled over their secure line. Be advised, multiple agencies are mobilizing. Whatever's on that drive, they're willing to burn everything to keep it quiet. Thunder rolled across the border town. As storm clouds gathered, the chips were down, and all the players were showing their hands. The only question was who was bluffing and who was holding the winning cards. The storm that had been threatening all day finally broke over the border town. Rain drumming against the windows of the safe house. Harrison sat in his study examining old photos of Grace Sarah from her CIA days. The woman who had cleaned his office for 15 years had once run some of the agency's most sensitive operations in Central America. You knew, he said as Grace entered with his evening medication. About Victor, about all of it. That's why you took the job. Grace measured out pills with practiced care. I was appointed to watch over your family. After what happened to your wife. Harrison's hand trembled slightly. That wasn't an accident. Was it the car crash 12 years ago? No, Grace admitted softly. She found something about Operation Clean Slate. They couldn't risk her talking in the next room. Jack and Lexi pored over Marcus's latest intel, dumped surveillance photos, financial records, classified cables, all pointing to something massive. Look at these dates. Lexi circled a series of transactions, every major cartel takedown in the past decade. But the money, it's not being seized, it's being redirected. Jack realized Clean Slate isn't about stopping the cartels, it's about controlling them. His phone buzzed. Cla's message was brief but alarming. Roberts made his move. FBI tactical teams deploying to multiple locations. They're not even trying to hide anymore. At the federal courthouse, Judge Pearson received an urgent call. You're certain about this? The evidence is on that drive. The voice confirmed everything about Clean Slate, everyone involved. If it goes public, I'll handle it, she snapped, ending the call. She reached for her secure line, then hesitated. The rain hammering her windows matched her thundering pulse. Victor's men had already surrounded the charity gala venue where Sofia was overseeing preparations for tomorrow's emergency fundraiser. She noticed them but kept working, playing her part. The guest list, she murmured into her concealed mic. 3 cartel lieutenants, confirmed using diplomatic credentials. Good work, Claire responded. Keep them thinking. We're focused on the money. Laundering. The real target is static. Cut through the transmission. Sofia felt her heart rate spike, but maintained her composure. Communications are being jammed, Jack reported from his observation post. Multiple teams moving in. Wesley Parker watched the Itical teams deploy from his border patrol station. His hand hovered over his phone. Conscience wearing with survival. You should make that call, his partner said quietly. Parker turned. What call? To warn them. I've seen how this eats at you, Wes. This isn't what you signed up for. At the safe house, Harrison's condition suddenly deteriorated. Dr. Maya Santos rushed to stabilize him. His blood work is off, she reported. These aren't just symptoms from the river. He's being poisoned. Grace checked the medication bottles, her expression darkening. The pharmacy. They got to someone at the pharmacy. Jack mobilized immediately. Marcus, I need everything on that pharmacy. Employees, delivery, security footage already on it. Marcus replied, but Dad, that's not our biggest problem. I just decoded more of Judge Pearson's files. The director that Grace mentioned, it's not just one person, it's a council. What kind of council? Government officials, military leadership, intelligence directors. They've been running Clean Slate for years, using cartel infrastructure to move black ops, money, weapons, intelligence. Lexi's intelligence training kicked in. The cartels think they're bribing officials, but really they're being puppeteered. Jack finished. Given to territory in exchange for serving as a shadow logistics network. In his office, Victor received confirmation that the charity venue was surrounded and the other teams in position at all secondary locations. Rafe reported, but sir, we're getting pressure from above. They want this contained tonight. Victor studied the chessboard on his desk. They're scared good, scared people make mistakes. Grace secured the perimeter as Dar Santos worked to counteract the poison Harrison's stabilizing. But he needs real medical care, soon no hospitals. Jack ordered they'll be watching them all. Claw's voice crackled through their emergency channel safe house. His compromised Roberts is leading a team there personally. How Lexi demanded that location was strictly need to know. A new voice answered Deputy Director Roberts himself, breaking into their frequency. Because you have a traitor in your ranks, don't you, Agent? Morrison Claire's blood ran cold as she realized who had access for secure files, who had known about the pharmacy, the one person she had trusted completely. Hello, CLA, her partner of 6 years, said, stepping out of the shadows with his weapon drawn. I'm sorry it had to be this way at the charity venue. Sophia received an urgent message from an unknown number. Attached was a photo of her father's accident from 12 years ago, from an angle she'd never seen before. Mom saw something that night. She whispered something about clean slate. The pieces were falling into place, but time was running out. Tomorrow's charity gala wasn't just a fundraiser, it was a meeting of the Shadow Council. Everyone who had helped build and maintain Operation Clean Slate would be there, and they were walking into a trap. The only question was whose trap. Thunder cracked overhead as Grace checked her weapon. We always knew this would end in blood, no, Harrison said from his bed, voice weak but determined. It ends with the truth, the whole truth. Jack looked at the storm raging outside. First, we have to survive the night. Claire's instincts took over as her partner's betrayal registered. She dropped and rolled as his first shot cracked past her ear, using a concrete pillar for cover in the parking garage. 6 years, Mike. She called out, keeping him talking while calculating angles. Was any of it real? You don't understand, he responded, moving between vehicles. Clean slate isn't what you think. We're maintaining order by working with cartels, killing innocent people, by controlling the chaos. His voice echoed. You think the world works on clean hands and good intentions? At the safe house, Jack coordinated the evacuation as Roberts's FBI team closed in. Harrison was barely conscious as they moved him to the backup vehicle. 3 minutes until they breached. Lexi reported monitoring surveillance feeds, tactical teams covering all ground exits. Grace checked her weapon. Then we don't use the ground. The explosion at the back of the building caught Roberts's team completely off guard as smoke billowed. A maintenance van burst through the garage door, taking the service alley at high speed. Follow that vehicle, Roberts ordered, but Grace had planned for this. The van split into 3 identical vehicles at the first intersection, each taking different routes. In his office, Victor received the surveillance footage with growing unease. They're hurting us, he realized. Every move, every reaction were being played. Sir, Rafe questioned. Think about it. Why would a decorated Delta Force operator, and CIA agent, and a top FBI investigator all converge on this case? This isn't about Harrison's evidence anymore. We're being used to flush out bigger prey at the charity venue. Sophia maintained her calm facade while coordinating with caterers. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Your mother's accident report toxicology was altered. She forced her hands to stay steady as she opened the attached files. The truth about her mother's death had been buried for 12 years. But now Judge Pearson sat in her chambers listening to the rain. The secure phone on her desk rang. Once a signal, she picked up her personal cell, instead dialing a number she'd memorized years ago. I want immunity, she said without preamble. The voice that responded was coldly amused. That depends on what you're offering. The real clean slate files, not just the financial records. Everything, including the original authorization from 82. Silence stretched finally. The gala come prepared to deal. Wesley Parker made his decision. He accessed the Border Patrol Command Center secure terminal, downloading everything he could find about Clean Slate's border operations. Sir, his partner noticed. What are you doing? Parker didn't hesitate, choosing a side in the maintenance van. Harrison drifted in and out of consciousness. Sarah, he mumbled, using Grace's real name. The night Maria died, she found the first clean slate ledger. Grace leaned closer. What was in it? Names, dates going back to the Cold War. They didn't just build a shadow network, they inherited it from something older, something that never officially ended. Jack's phone lit up with Marcus's urgent update. Dad, I found it. Clean Slate wasn't created in 82. It was transferred. The original program started under Operation Condor. They just changed the name and expanded north. My God, Lexi Breathe, they're using Cartel routes to maintain the old networks, the same channels they used during the Cold War. Claire, still hunting her traitorous partner through the garage, caught fragments of radio chatter. Multiple agencies is mobilizing, all converging on tomorrow's gala. They're not just coming to contain a leak. She realized they're coming to clean house. Her partner's voice carried from the shadows. Now you're getting it. Why do you think everyone important is attending the council's cutting ties, eliminating loose ends, including Victor, especially Victor? He got greedy, started skimming, made everyone nervous. In the second, Sofia reviewed the evidence about her mother's death. The toxicology report had been altered to hide specific compounds that matched what was just used to poison her father. They're using the same poison, she told Jack over their secure line. After 12 years, they're still using the same method because it works, Jack replied grimly. But now we know what to look for. The third van, driven by Lexi, pulled into an abandoned warehouse. She quickly transferred their equipment to a new vehicle, one loaded with everything they'd need to infiltrate the gala. Victor sat in his office, making his own preparations. If his suspicions were correct, he needed leverage, something big enough to ensure his survival. He opened his wall safe, removing a single USB drive. Get me everything on the council members attending tomorrow. Personal details, security, everything. Sir, Rafe questioned. Are we going against them? No, Victor smiled coldly. We're going to make them an offer they can't refuse. Grace checked her weapon one final time as they regrouped at the backup location. Tomorrow is going to be a bloodbath. No, Jack corrected. Tomorrow is going to be justice for Maria, for Harrison, for everyone they've killed. To keep this quiet, the storm intensified outside, but inside their temporary sanctuary plans were being finalized. Multiple players, multiple agendas, all converging on a single event. You know they'll be ready for us, Claire said, having finally rejoined the team after dealing with her partner. Harrison, stronger now that the poison was being counteracted, managed to sit up. That's counting on it for the first time. We know exactly where everyone will be, and they have to show up. Sophia added, their entire network depends on maintaining appearances. Lightning illuminated the room as Jack laid out their final plan. Tomorrow, the Shadow Council would learn that the most dangerous enemies aren't the ones you're watching, for they're the ones you've already dismissed as defeated. Dawn broke over the border town, the aftermath of the storm, leaving everything feeling unnaturally still. In a converted warehouse space, Jack surveyed their improvised command center as final preparations were made for the evening's gala. Council members confirmed for attendance. Marcus reported over their secure line. Thomas Reynolds, Secretary of Border Security; General James Mitchell, Joint Special Operations; Elena Vasquez, DEA Director, plus 6 others were still identifying any word on the director. Jack asked, studying blueprints of the venue. Nothing, but everyone on that list has one thing in common: they all served in Latin America during the 80s when the original program was active. Lexi entered carrying surveillance photos. Victor's making moves. He's called in every favor, activated every sleeper agent. Whatever he's planning, he's going all in at his estate. Victor reviewed dossier on each council member, decades of dirty secrets, carefully collected and preserved. Insurance, he thought, now was survival. The council isn't just cleaning house, he told Rafe. They're purging everyone who knows about the original program, making way for something new. Sir, Rafe questioned, what could be bigger than clean slate? Victor smiled grimly. War is coming, not here, somewhere else. They need these networks for something bigger than drug money. In her chambers, Judge Pearson made final preparations. The evidence she'd gathered over years of handling clean slate cases was substantial enough to guarantee her survival, or so she thought. Her phone buzzed. Wesley Parker's message was brief. Border Patrol stations are being stripped, personnel reassigned. Something's coming through tonight. She frowned. This wasn't part of the plan. At the backup safe house, Harrison studied old photographs spread across his bed. I should have seen it sooner, he told Grace. The pattern: every major cartel takedown in the past decade. They weren't eliminating competition, they were consolidating power. For what purpose? Grace asked, checking his vital signs. The infrastructure they built, a shadow transportation network spanning the continent. Drugs were just the cover. The real purpose was maintaining old condor routes for something else, something military. CLA arrived with new intelligence. He's right, just found authorization requests buried in classified files. They're positioning for a major operation, something requiring complete control of cross movement A invasion route, Jack realized. They're not just cleaning house, they're preparing staging areas. Sophia worked at her laptop cross-referencing foundation records, every major donor, every project location. They're all near strategic crossings or military installations. We weren't just laundering money. We were helping them map the border. Victor received an urgent update from his sources. He read it twice, then burned it. Change of plans, he told Rafe. The council isn't just eliminating witnesses. They're eliminating evidence, starting with us. What do? We give them a bigger problem, something that forces them to deal with us. He reached for his phone. Get me Harrison Blackwood's daughter. Now at the gala venue, final security preparations were underway. Claire, observing through surveillance cameras, noticed something odd. These aren't regular security teams. She reported these are military contractors. I recognized their formation patterns. Jack studied the footage. Not just any contractors, these are wet work specialists. They're not here to protect anyone, they're here to contain the situation. Grace recognized some of the faces. I worked with them in Salvador when things needed to disappear. Harrison's voice was grim. Maria recognized them too. The night she died, she saw them meeting with Border Patrol officials and knew what it meant. Sophia's phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. Victor's voice was calm, measured. Miss Blackwood, we need to talk about your mother's accident and about what's coming through the border tonight. Why should I trust you? Because in 6 hours, everyone who knows the truth about Clean Slate will be eliminated, including your father, including me. They're not just changing management, they're erasing history. Jack monitored the call, weighing options. He's scared, really scared. Good, Grace said. Fear makes people honest. Wesley Parker arrived at their location, carrying files. Every border station is being cleared. Official story is a terrorist threat. But look at the patrol schedules. CLA examined the documents. They're creating a 6-hour window. No patrols, no surveillance, a complete blackout along 60 mi of border, enough space to move an army, Jack noted, or stop one. Harrison added quietly, Lexi's intelligence training kicked in. These aren't invasion routes, they're containment zones. Whatever's coming, it's not getting in, it's keeping something in. The pieces were falling into place, revealing a picture darker than anyone had imagined. Clean Slate wasn't just about money or drugs or power. It was about preparing for something that required complete control of the border, elimination of all witnesses, and a network of secure routes and facilities. They're not just killing us to keep us quiet, Jack realized. They're killing us because what's coming can't have any loose ends. No one who remembers the old networks, no one who might recognize what they're really doing. Grace checked her weapon. Then we don't just stop them. We expose everything, not just Clean Slate, all of it, every secret, every operation, every death they've caused. Harrison managed to stand leaning on his IV pole. They killed my wife, tried to kill me, used my foundation to build their network. Tonight it ends. No, Sophia corrected, looking at the evidence about her mother's death. Tonight it all comes out, every last dirty secret. As evening approached, multiple players moved into position, the council believing they were springing a trap, Victor planning to turn their own operation against them, and Jack's team preparing to expose decades of hidden crimes. The gala would be more than a confrontation. It would be a reckoning. The gala venue glittered under the evening sky, a renovated Spanish colonial mansion on the outskirts of town. Black SUVs and luxury sedans roll through the security checkpoint, their occupants a who's who of border politics and law enforcement. Jack watched through high-powered optics from his position in an adjacent building. First council member arriving, Secretary R's East entrance, foreman security detail confirmed. Claire responded from her position inside, posing as catering staff. They're using hand signals I recognize from Secret Service. These aren't regular protection details. Sophia stood at the entrance greeting guests with practiced charm. Her evening gown concealed both a weapon and a wire. Years of foundation events had taught her how to hide tension behind a perfect smile. Senator Williams, she greeted warmly. So glad you could make it on short notice. The senator nodded, but his eyes were sharp, scanning. He knew something was wrong, but couldn't place what. Inside, Victor circulated with calculated precision. Each conversation was carefully staged, each greeting carrying hidden weight. Rafe shadowed him, a tablet ready with their insurance files. General Mitchell. Victor approached smoothly. A moment of your time. There's something about Operation Matador. You should see. The general's face remained impassive, but his pulse quickened visibly at the old code name. Not here, no. Victor agreed, the study, perhaps more private. Grace serving drinks in her disguise. As catering staff noted familiar faces, 3 former CIA station chiefs. By the bar, they're carrying diplomatic credentials. But the dates are wrong, explained. Jack requested those credentials were issued under a program that ended in '89. They're using old covers reactivated specifically for tonight. Harrison, against all advice, had insisted on attending. He sat in the back of an unmarked van watching through surveillance. Feeds the council's not just here to clean house, he observed. Look at the seating arrangements. They've positioned everyone they want eliminated at specific tables. Lexi analyzed the layout. They're creating kill zones, clean lines of fire, compartmentalized areas. For containment, Wesley Parker's voice crackled over their secure channel. Border Patrol update. All stations reporting system maintenance issues. Communications will be down for a 6-hour window starting at midnight. That's not a window, Jack corrected. That's a countdown. CLA moved through the crowd, noting details. The waiting staff included faces she recognized from classified briefings. Wet work specialists positioned as servers. The security teams were too coordinated to professional for regular private contractors. They'd brought in a black ops team. She reported, I count at least 12 operators disguised as security and staff. Judge Pearson made her entrance carrying a small clutch that bulged slightly. Insurance documents. She thought enough to guarantee her survival. She was wrong. Victor watched her arrive. Noting the clutch right on schedule, he murmured to Rafe, start the clock in the security control room. Marcus had hijacked their systems. I got eyes on all sectors. They're running a closed network. But I'm in. What do you see? Jack asked. The security feeds. They're being monitored off-site. Some kind of command center monitoring everything in real time. So IIA approached the bar, perfectly playing her role. A council member, Elena Vasquez from the DEA, intercepted her. Miss Blackwood Vasquez smiled. Your father's absence is noticeable. Still recovering, Sophia replied smoothly. His doctors insisted, of course. Vasquez's smile didn't reach her eyes. Such a terrible accident. The threat was clear. Sophia maintained her composure, but her hand tightened on her clutch. Harrison watched the exchange through cameras. They're getting ready to move. Look at the security teams. Jack noticed it too. The disguised operators were shifting positions, creating containment zones around specific targets. They're not just going to eliminate witnesses, he realized. They're going to stage a terrorist attack, clean house, and justify increased border security. In one move, Claire's voice was tight. Jack, the kitchen staff just changed rotation. They're bringing in new people. Wet worker teams. Grace confirmed. I recognized the leader, Gabriel Santos. He specialized in making deaths look natural. Victor caught fragments of radio chatter through his hidden earpiece. The council's plan was becoming clear, and it wasn't what he'd expected. Change of plans, he told Rafe urgently. They're not just cleaning house, they're staging something bigger. Get our people out now. But it was too late. The doors clicked shut. Security systems engaging. No one would be leaving until the council's plan played out. Harrison's voice came through their comms, calm but firm. The Foundation's annual donor video. It's ready to play on all screens, Dad. No, Sophia protested. They'll know you're alive. They already know, but they don't know what's on that video. Jack checked his watch. Time was running out. The council's plan was in motion. Victor's blackmail scheme was falling apart, and somewhere in the building a wet work team was preparing to turn a charity gala into a massacre. But Harrison had one last card to play, one final piece of evidence that would change everything. The lights dimmed as the donor presentation began. On every screen, Maria Blackwood's face appeared, speaking directly to camera. 12 years ago, hours before her death, the council members froze, recognizing a ghost who had returned to expose their darkest secrets. Maria Blackwood's face filled every screen in the gala venue, her expression serious but determined. If you're seeing this, I'm already dead. What I'm about to reveal involves Operation Clean Slate, a program that goes beyond drug enforcement or border security. The council members sat rigid in their seats as Maria detailed dates, operations, and names. Video evidence played alongside her testimony. Surveillance footage of meetings, documents bearing their signatures, bank transfers that couldn't be explained. General Mitchell reached for his radio, but Grace was faster. Communications are being jammed, she reported to Jack. They can't call for backup. Victor watched the chaos unfold old his own plans forgotten as he realized the magnitude of what Harrison had orchestrated. This wasn't just exposure, it was annihilation, sir. Rafe warned. Wet worker teams are moving. The first shots came from the disguised security teams, silenced weapons targeting specific guests. But Jack's team was ready. Lights failed in strategic sections, plunging kill zones into darkness. Sophia now, Jack commanded. Sophia's voice cut through the growing panic. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. Security protocol Alpha is in effect. Follow the illuminated paths to designated safe areas. It was a Foundation emergency protocol that all regular guests knew well. The Council's hired killers couldn't shoot without exposing themselves. CLA moved through the chaos with purpose, intercepting Gabriel Santos before he could reach Judge Pearson. "Hello, old friend," she said, pressing a weapon into his ribs. "The CIA sends regards." Secretary Reynolds tried to maintain control. "This is a terrorist attack. Security teams implement containment protocols." Negative. Wesley Parker's voice boomed through the venue speakers. "Border Patrol Command has received evidence of compromised security teams. All personnel stand down for identity verification." The hesitation among the disguised operator was brief but crucial. Jack's team used the moment to secure key positions. Maria knew Harrison's voice carried through the speakers, silencing the room. She discovered that Clean Slate wasn't about stopping drug trafficking. It was about controlling routes, establishing a shadow infrastructure spanning the continent. Victor watched as his own insurance files appeared on screens. "You played me," he realized, speaking into the chaos. "Used my blackmail preparations is cover for something bigger. You were never the target," Grace confirmed, emerging from her disguise. "Just a middleman who got greedy. The Council used you like they used everyone else." Elena Vasquez from the DEA made a break for a side exit, but found Lexi waiting. "Going somewhere? We should discuss those offshore accounts you managed for the Council." The wet work teams, realizing their mission was compromised, started implementing their backup plan. Explosive charges would solve everything until they discovered their detonators had been replaced. "Looking for these." Marcus's voice came through their comms. "Amazing what you can do with a compromised security network." General Mitchell maintained his composure even as his world crumbled. "You have no idea what you've done. Clean Slate isn't just a program, it's necessary." "What's coming?" "We know exactly what's coming," Harrison said, entering the main hall. His appearance caused gasps from those who thought him dead. "You're using Cartel networks to prepare for something. Military operations disguised as drug enforcement. The border stations," Claire added. "The communication blackouts. You're not trying to keep drugs out, you're establishing control points. Military staging areas disguised as enforcement operations." Judge Pearson broke under the pressure. "They're expecting war," she blurted. "Not here, but close. They need these networks in place. When it starts, that's enough," Secretary Reynolds shouted. But the damage was done. Victor saw his opportunity. "I have proof," he announced. "Everything, every operation, every dollar, every death," they ordered, including Maria Blackwood's. "And now everyone else does too." Marcus reported files are going live to every major news outlet and law enforcement agency. Complete data dump. Impossible to contain. The Council members fought to maintain control, but their own security teams were now uncertain who to trust. Years of careful manipulation and hidden agendas collapsed in minutes. Grace approached her former CIA colleagues. "Did you really think Sarah Mitchell would stay buried forever? That I wouldn't figure out why I was assigned to watch the Blackwoods outside?" Legitimate FBI teams were arriving, responding to evidence packages that had been carefully prepared and distributed. The Council's shadowy authority was evaporating in real time. "It's over," Harrison announced to the room. "Every piece of evidence has been verified and distributed. Every account frozen, every operation exposed." Sophia stood beside her father, finally understanding the full scope of her mother's sacrifice. "The Foundation will continue its work," she declared, "but with full transparency. No more